Hello and welcome to this episode of Paranormal United States. It's episode 17, and in this episode we're talking Kentucky.
Yes, we are. And I know we generally do some of the lesser known stuff in our episodes. However, if I said to you sort of, if you can think of a case that Kentucky's famous for, what would you kind of think?
Fried chicken.
Oh yeah, that would be a good episode.
I don't know. It would be a good episode.
Well, there's a town called Hopkinsville.
Okay.
And a town called Kelly.
Oh, okay.
So they should ring a bell, I think.
No?
Nope. Okay, so so we're going to talk about the Kelly-Hopkinsville Goblins.
Interesting. Carry on. Yeah.
So this is going back to August 1955. So a pretty long time ago. It's a very well-known group of instances that happened. So there was a group staying at a farmhouse in the small town of Kelly.
Yeah.
It's on the border of Hopkinsville, which is a bit of a bigger town. Kelly only had like 300 population, something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a family in this farmhouse. Got some family staying, some friends staying. So there's around 12 of them all together staying at this farmhouse this weekend. And it's around dusk, and Billy Ray Taylor, who was staying there, went to the well to get some water, because that's where they got the water from a well, back in 1955 Kentucky. And all of a sudden, Taylor saw a round metallic object with a rainbow light streaking across the tree line.
Okay.
And so it sort of come down in the field behind the house. And he started hearing like a loud hissing noise. Convinced he'd seen a flying saucer, he ran back to the house to tell the others. At the time, 1955, Project Blue Book was in full swing. And UFO topic, obviously a few years after the whole flying saucer, Kenneth Arnold, Roswell. No, that was 1947, so not too long after that, and UFOs are quite a popular thing at the time.
Yeah.
So he's convinced he's seen a flying saucer. Come back to the house, and the others that were there, so there's 12 of them all together, there's 5 adults and 7 kids. They all laughed it off, thinking he's having a bit of a joke. But his friend who he's with, Elmer Sutton, so he was looked genuinely a bit scared. Mm-hmm. So he agreed to walk back to the well with him to see if they could see anything. The 2 men couldn't see anything. They got to the well, just all darkness. So they started to walk back to the farmhouse. This is when they first saw a glowing object approaching from the woods.
Okay.
A short, human-like creature with large eyes and 2 legs that seemed to float rather than walk, with 2 long arms. And when they saw it at this point, it looked like he had his arms like in a surrender position. His 2 arms were raised. The 2 men obviously freaked out, ran inside the house and slammed the door behind them. They went and then got the shotguns and just stood by the door. The women in the house were still sort of thinking it's a bit of a prank, saying like, "Oh, you're going a bit too far." And they're like, "No, it's not a prank. We just saw some sort of creature." They sent the kids to bed, upstairs to the bedroom, and just stood watching out for the doors. All of a sudden, a 3-foot-tall figure appeared out of the darkness, just stood in the doorway. Taylor just shot straight away at the intruder, and the bullet just put a hole through the screen door, and whatever it was had disappeared. He'd gone outside to sort of try and see if anything else was there. As he stepped into the porch, a clawed hand reached down, grazing his head. Elmer Sutton and then shot at the creature that's on the roof, which then rolled off and ran into the woods and disappeared. So now they're all thinking, what is going on? What the hell are these creatures? Going around the house. Now the women are scared. Obviously, the shotgun noises, the kids now saying, right, what's going on? So the women are trying to sort of comfort the kids, keep them sort of safe and not too scared. And more creatures started coming, looking through the windows, just stood on the grass outside the house. And they kept shooting at him, realizing that the bullets weren't doing anything against him. They just seemed to either just miss him or just had no effect on him at all. Someone in the house suggested that the bright lights, because he had like large eyes with yellow pupils, and one of them suggested that bright light seemed to hurt their eyes. So they turned all the lights on, trying to deter him, but that didn't stop. They still kept coming. Around the same time that all this was going on, a neighbour, about a quarter of a mile away, saw strange lights in the woods behind the farmhouse. He thought maybe that they were looking out for, because he had like livestock and animals in this farmhouse. He thought maybe they were out looking for an animal or something that had escaped. Obviously, a little bit later, he's heard the gunshots, and he thought, oh, maybe there's a big cat or bobcat that's trying to get the livestock, so they're shooting it to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. So that's a bit of like corroborating evidence with his neighbour. So this goes on for about 4 hours of trying to shoot at the creatures. He hasn't seemed to make any attempt to like come in properly or do any harm, but they're still there, just sort of outside the house. But they noticed that there was a bit of a clear path to the trucks outside. Yeah. So they were terrified, so they just made the decision to just run for the trucks and just get out there. So they all ran, piled into the trucks and head to try and get help. So, like I said, the town of Hopkinsville was nearby, and there's no amount of training that could have prepared the sergeant at the front desk of the Hopkinsville police station. No amount of training that could have prepared him for what these 12 people that appeared in the police station just before midnight and started telling him this story of what they'd just been gone through. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to say to him. So he contacted a number of police, including the Kentucky State Police, the Christian County Sheriff's Office, and even the Fort Campbell Army Base, and they sent some of their police. Not long after, there were nearly 30 people had gone to the property. You got the police, you've got newspaper reporters that got wind of it, and even the US Air Force, according to some reports.
Oh, wow.
Were there as well. There's obviously Project Blue Book running, so maybe it's something to do with the US Air Force there, because Project Blue Book did investigate it as part of one of their files. They closed it and classified it as a hoax, the Project Blue Book did. With no further explanation as to why, but just said, yeah, this is a hoax, and no further investigation needed. Police couldn't find anything. There were no markings, there was no trail or footprints or anything. The only thing they found was evidence that there'd been a shootout. There was obviously the holes in the wall, in the like screen doors. There was shotgun shell casings all over the floor. So they knew something had happened, but there's no evidence of these creatures there. After a couple of hours of being there, everyone left. There's now just the family there again in the house. A couple more creatures were seen. Obviously, they didn't really get much sleep that night. A couple more were seen, but just before dawn, the last one disappeared into the woods, and they never seen them again. That was the last time that they saw any of the creatures. Neighbours said it was all a hoax, just for publicity, trying to get a bit of fame, like other people in the town. Some blamed it on alcohol. There's a meteor storm the same night.
Okay.
So you might have obviously had a bit to drink. You've seen a meteor, got a bit confused because it's had a bit to drink. And that sort of all escalated into, like, a bit of panic and stuff has escalated into them having this shared experience of seeing these creatures. You know, that, and the family actually came under so much harassment and threats from other townsfolk that I think it's less than 2 weeks later, they just packed up and left town. They just moved out.
How weird.
Because of the amount of like harassment they were getting, because they said that all this had happened. But like, yeah, it's been nearly 70 years. So 1955, yeah, going up to 70 years since it happened. And it's still an interesting case.
Yeah. Is there any other sort of news on what it could have been, or?
Yeah, well, so one of the popular theories that could explain it is great horned owls.
Okay.
That they're like, and when they described it as sort of floating rather than walking, and when it's like it sort of it was on the roof and then it disappeared into the trees. So it could have been because these are big owls, Obviously, like owls do have the big eyes, like sort of do look grey. When you think of grey aliens, like they have that sort of set back eyes and large heads, which is how the goblins were described. So people believe it could have been them combined with alcohol, the meteor shower, and also the green glow that the men witnessed could have been a result of bioluminescent creatures that are in the woods that do give off a glow. Like you get frogs and stuff that can give off this luminescent glow, and glowworms and stuff. So that could explain the glow. It was just an owl, and they had a bit to drink. Could have been.
Wow.
Could have been. But the term "little green men," when I say "little green men" from Mars, this is where that originated.
No way.
So the term "little green men" had been seen in a book previous to this, a couple of years before.
Yeah.
But in the newspapers in the days after this event, they were saying "little green men" in Kelly-Hopkinsville, even though they never actually said any colours. All they said was, when they went to the police, all they said was it was little men or little creatures been coming to the house.
Wow.
They never mentioned any colour, but in the paper it turned into little green men. And now that's when people say little green men from Mars and all that. That's where this story that originated from.
Wow.
And again, that's because the media started putting a play on what happened.
Yeah. I'd never even thought about the term "little green men" and where did that come from.
There was another report, but they don't know how much substance there is to this one, but a group of Evansville teenagers in Kentucky again, they reported seeing 10 of the creatures in the field at Lincoln High School. They said they locked off into the darkness after the teens started throwing rocks at them, but we don't know anything more about that one. And if you watch the series Hellier, so that's based in Hellier, Kentucky.
Oh yeah.
And again, that first came about after an email that the guys got about the little goblin-like creatures that are coming to his house in Hellier. And that's how that all. So the first season of Hellier is more about what happened in Hellier and other surrounding towns. The latest series are about different places in Kentucky, but it all started off in Hellier again with these little creature-like things being seen at this guy's house. So there's tons on the Kelly-Hopkinsville, and you probably see that when you put it in, the image often comes up. We've had problems with audio this week, with the video this week, so this is audio only this week. But we do have. You put it in Google, the pictures come up how they described them and the sketches of them, and you'll recognise the image of them. It's quite a famous image.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. That's very, very famous image. Yeah, how weird. And as I say, I never even heard of the town of Kelly, and didn't know that it was quite so influential in the world of little green men. Very interesting. I like that one.
So that was Kentucky, Paranormal, United States.